Hey guys, so about a week or so ago, I filmed a video and I shared my fragrances that went from love to hate. So fragrances that I used to love that now I either am over or can't stand. Now, we're switching it up. We're going with fragrances that went from hate to love. So these ones are ones that took a little bit of a while to grow on me. They weren't love at first sniff. Some of these were actually absolute hate at first sniff. I'm using the word hate for dramatic effect. I hope you guys understand. I just strongly dislike them. In some cases, I really did hate them. Like, I really couldn't stand them. They were scrubbers. But some of these were just ones that, like, really didn't do it for me, and they took a while to grow on me. So the whole point really is that sometimes a fragrance takes a little while, especially if it's a little bit more complex. Sometimes it's a little bit more tricky and challenging, and it takes a little bit to grow on you. And for various reasons, I didn't like them. So anyway, I will explain everything if you guys are interested in finding out which fragrances went from hate to love for me. Then keep on watching. And if you're new here, welcome. My name is Yana. This is The Scented. We do the fragrance things. So subscribe. Stay tuned for any new videos coming up by clicking the notification bell. We'll do all the things together. And here we go. We're gonna start off with one that you guys have definitely 100% heard of. Chanel number 5. This one actually, I hated. I hated it before I was 30. Now I'm 32 and I love it. I love it. I adore it. It's got a nice fizziness to it. It's soapy, it's clean, it's very elegant. It does smell quite classic, and I think that the composition of this fragrance just a lot of the times doesn't appeal to younger noses. Something changes. Something, like I told you guys before in previous videos, especially when I covered Chanel's, something changes and your tastes change. And for me, I find that like after 30, and a lot of my friends as well, after 30, you somehow start to love this fragrance. So I fell in love with it. Adore it now, and I can't live without it. It's like one that I must have in my collection. I think the last time that I had smelled it before rediscovering it after 30, I think I had smelled it when I was maybe 24, and I like hated it so much that I was like, I have no business here. I have no business with number 5. There was no need for me to ever smell this fragrance. And then I'm glad that curiosity got the best of me to revisit it because it's one of my favorites now. So that one really did make a huge leap from hate to love. Next one's gonna be a shocker for you guys. One of my absolute favorites, Byredo Bal. I did not start loving this fragrance until I got the cream in the fragrance, and I used the cream, like the lotion, and I really fell in love with it. And the reason why I didn't love it was because I initially introduced myself to this fragrance through a fragrance oil dupe. And even though it's a pretty close dupe, like it's the one from Oil Perfumery, it's a pretty close dupe. It's not as sweet, and it has more vetiver, and it's a little bit more smoky. And to me, it smelled more masculine, and it didn't smell me. It didn't smell like something I would want to wear. I gave it to my man, he wore it, and it smelled nice on him, but it was one that I was just like, not for me. Like I couldn't get on board with it through the fragrance oil. However, the hand cream that I had really kind of warmed my nose up to it, and then I fell in love with it so hard that I got everything. I got the body cream, I got the hair mist, I have the lotion still, I have the actual perfume. Like, I am obsessed. This is one of my favorites. You guys know because I talked about it in my favorite niche fragrance video. I'll link that for you guys up here. So the lesson here, the moral of the story, sometimes fragrance dupes just don't do it. They just won't give you the idea. Most of the time they're pretty good, but sometimes there's just a slight nuance that's missing that could turn a fragrance from a dislike to a love. Next up is Juliette Has a Gun, Not a Perfume. I really don't like the brand name. Like, I don't like that it's such a long name. I don't like, it kind of sounds a little bit gimmicky. I think that's initially why I also was kind of put off, was because I didn't love the fragrance brand name. But I do like their packaging. And I really love this fragrance right now. It smells very soft, musky, warm. It smells kind of like a skin scent. It doesn't have any sharpness. To me, I don't smell any sharpness. The Superdose, I smell a lot of sharpness. But initially, when I smelled this at Sephora, when I was first introduced to it, I'm like, I fully thought it was a scam. Like, I thought it was like a non-existent perfume. Like, why is it called not a perfume? This is like a complete marketing scam. They want you to buy it to like layer it. I couldn't understand the concept behind this fragrance. I smelled zero. I couldn't smell it at all. And I took a sample home because I was like really curious, what's this weird ghost fragrance that they're trying to sell me for like $150 or $160. And eventually, I think my nose figured it out. Now I love it. I love it on its own and I love it for layering. And it wasn't until I had sprayed it on my coat and wore it outside and smelled it in the breeze that I was like, oh, that's me. Oh, I smell good. Like, I couldn't figure out the fragrance until I had worn it properly and actually on fabric. Now I can smell it and it works for me and I actually really like this. So yeah, sometimes it's a journey. The next one that I started off hating is Dior Addict. I didn't like this at all. And then I grew to love it so much that I hunted down the older formulation. This one is, I think, okay, this is 2009. This one's from 2009. So at least as far as I remember on how to read the batch code. It appears this one's from 2009. Very, very good fragrance. Very good vanilla fragrance. I couldn't handle it at first. It was like, it smelled old to me. It smelled dated and it smelled too powdery. But now I really like it. It's a beautiful vanilla and tonka. There's some really nice jasmine in here. It is powdery. It is definitely a powdery vanilla. And it does have a slight kind of like Play-Doh-y facet, kind of similar to what you find in Hypnotic Poison. I still don't like Hypnotic Poison from Dior. Still don't like it. This one I like. It's a little bit sweeter. It's, to me, a little bit fluffier. And you know what? On the other end, I'm gonna spray the Current Day. The Current Day one actually almost smells less powdery. It smells less complex, a little bit more watery. Like less powdery, almost more nutty in a way. The original one definitely has, well, the 2009 one, the older one. It definitely has a lot more depth and complexity, but the Current Day is still good. Still very, very good. I still love them both. You can see the juice is a lot darker on the older one. I don't know if you guys can see. I sprayed the older one here, and then this is the Current Day. Well, and then the vanilla obviously ages. It's a really, really nice vanilla scent. It is very grown up and it's quite a powerful scent. Like, it can be quite intimidating, but very sexy at the same time. And I think initially I think it intimidated me. But I really like it now. If you can find an older one, and I know that it's hard and probably almost impossible at this point, but if you happen to hunt it down somewhere, Mercari, Poshmark, whatever, grab the older one because it is like way better, way, way better. Current Day is still good, but the original, way better. Another powdery scent that I started off not liking. I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it. And I had blind bought this, and it's from the different company, and it's called Pure Eve. And I revisited this recently because it has almond, and I'm hunting a good almond fragrance, and I was like, let's revisit some that I have. And I don't know if it had to sit for a while longer and macerate, and now it smells much better. It smells like a very beautiful, rich, powdery, almondy lotion. The almond is a lot more prominent than I remember when I first got this fragrance. When I first got it, it almost smelled like a gentle, soft lotion. It was boring to me. It almost smelled baby powdery. Now I don't smell this, like, it is still a little bit baby powdery, but it's not super powdery. It's more almondy and lotiony. It's a really, really nice almond. It's not very sweet. I actually really, really like it. I wore it earlier today and I loved it. And I think that it's a really nice, comforting, soft, casual scent. Really gentle and really for the almond lover, because the almond is quite prominent. It's not a super sweet almond. It's more of a powdery almond, but I do really, really love this one. Another almond scent that I started off hating. I actually hated it, but now I love it. And I have a little decant of it that I grabbed from a friend of mine. Terra di Gioia from Giorgio Armani. I hated it, and I sprayed it at Sephora recently, And it smelled like straight up Play-Doh to me. It smelled very pasty and it smelled very Play-Doh-y. And now I'm like, was the bottle at Sephora off? Because how can it be? How can it be off? It's such a new fragrance. But who knows? It didn't smell good. So this just goes to show that when you test a fragrance, you really need to like give it a chance. Like I had sprayed it on myself in the store. I hated it from that experience, but I got this sample from my friend and I had smelled this fragrance on my friend and it smelled lovely. It left a really nice trail. It's a very fresh, clean, almost like shampoo-y almondy scent. Very, very easy grab and go. There's a sweetness to it. There's a nice, like almost like candied, gentle almond. Fruitiness, like pear always smells to me like shampoo-y in fragrances. And there's a pear note in here that's very prominent. It's soft, it's gentle, it's very easy to wear. It's just a tiny bit woody, but mostly it's a sweet, ambery, slightly almondy, floral fragrance. Like really pretty. I actually really, really like this. And I probably, when I wear through the sample, I'll have to figure out a final verdict. I probably will end up getting a full bottle of Terra di Gioia. I really like it. I think it's a great, easy grab and go. I also really enjoy Ocean di Gioia. That's the one that I have a full bottle of. That one's more summery. I feel like Terra di Gioia would be perfect for like all year round. Next is a fragrance that I actually really hated. And it is, I still have my little Sephora sample. It is one that I bashed in an earlier video. And it's Tom Ford Noir pour Femme. I hated it. When I first discovered this fragrance, I couldn't stand it. It gave me a headache. It smelled like a mess. I was like legitimately offended by it. And I smelled it again recently and I really like it. How our noses change and develop, and maybe the fragrance itself develops, maybe it had to actually sit for a little while, but I won't be buying a full bottle of this one only because it is so similar to Noir Extreme, which is a masculine marketed Tom Ford fragrance, but they're so similar. Like they're so similar. I really don't think it's worth having both. And I already have the Noir Extreme, so I don't need the Noir Pour Femme. Funny thing is I always liked the Noir Extreme and didn't like the Noir Pour Femme. I think that the Noir Extreme is a little bit more creamy. This one's a little bit more like spicy to me. Like spicy and gingery. I get a little bit more ginger in here. Like that spiciness is a little bit more in here for some reason. The Noir Extreme, I still prefer it, but if I didn't have the Noir Extreme, I would get the Noir Pour Femme. It's really, really nice. Nice, like spicy, ambery vanilla fragrance. It has this like creamy note of kulfi, which is an ice cream with saffron and pistachio. It's really beautiful. So I am eating my words now. I do like Noir Pour Femme. It's a nice fragrance. It's a really nice fragrance. I started off absolutely hating. Another one I didn't like at all is Myrrh and Tonka from Jo Malone. And the reason why I didn't like it on myself. I thought it was very, very masculine. I couldn't wear it. To me, it smelled almost like gasoline initially, and I didn't like it at all. But I love it now. It's such a beautiful, powerful, like confident fragrance. It's one of my favorites, like to wear going out, especially on a winter day. It's Myrrh and Tonka predominantly. Like I talked about this one in my best going out fragrances, night out fragrances. And I see it as like a very strong, empowering scent. A lot of you guys suggested really good layering ideas with this fragrance, and it does layer really, really well. I personally love wearing it on its own because I love that myrrh note. I like that smokiness. I think it's beautiful. It is definitely a little bit masculine, but I don't smell what I was smelling when I first discovered it, when I didn't like it. I actually really, really like it now. So that one actually did go from hate to love. Okay, another one that I despised. Portrait of a Lady from Frederic Malle. When I first discovered it, I hated it. And to be fair, I did smell the oil first. But I basically almost immediately got a sample of it and smelled it at the boutique, and they do smell very, very similar. I didn't really like the oil initially. It's not as good as the original. And I worked through a sample of the original Portrait of a Lady. This one's a little bit more, like, it's got a little bit of a sharpness to it. It's a little bit more, like pinchy. The original is a beautiful, like spicy, smoky rose fragrance. Not a fragrance that I would initially gravitate towards, but something about it I find very captivating now. Like the rose is really, really nice on my skin. The original fragrance, like the actual fragrance, I think I might actually end up getting a full bottle. The rose comes out really nicely. It's a very mellow fragrance on my skin. Really beautiful smoky rose fragrance, like a spicy smoky rose fragrance. And I didn't like it at all. Like I actually like low-key was offended by it, but I really love it right now. I think it's one of the most beautiful rose fragrances. It's not for everyone, and I get that a lot of people hate it, and I get why, because I was one of you guys. So yeah, that one took me a while to warm up to. It took me a few wearings, and it took me some tries. Like I put in an effort, and I learned to love it, and now I actually really, really do enjoy it. So Portrait of a Lady is one. It's still not my favorite. It's still not my absolute favorite, but I do really enjoy it on my skin, and I can like appreciate that it's a very good quality fragrance. And then we have Rouge Trafalgar from Dior. I did not hate this one. When I first discovered it, I was just very underwhelmed, and I had smelled the whole Dior Privé collection, and I got the mini bottle as like a free gift with my purchase of my bigger bottles of Dior. So I had worn through a bunch of this in the spring and summer, and I need a full bottle now. It's this delicious tart juicy berry and pine. Like it smells like pine to me. There's no actual pine note, but it smells like berries and pine. I always tell you guys that. It's the easiest way to describe it. It's a very refreshing, uplifting, beautiful fragrance. In the beginning when I smelled it, I didn't really smell the pine. It just smelled like kind of like a boring berry fragrance. It smelled sweet and underwhelming, and I didn't get it. And then it faded very quickly, so I was disappointed even more. So I didn't like it at all initially, but having worn this, it lasts on my skin. It actually lasts a good like 5-6 hours on my skin. I get this beautiful, unique pine zinginess and that fresh tart berry, and it smells very outdoorsy, but still very feminine to me. So I'm definitely, once I wear through this, I'm definitely gonna need a big, big bottle. And yeah, that's how much I love it now. It's one of my favorites from the Dior Privé collection that's like strongly feminine leaning in my opinion. And then lastly, it looks like lastly. Okay, this is a discontinued one, so this is why it's last. C Intense. I picked this up at a warehouse sale. I think I like the Armani C collection. I do prefer, turns out I prefer the Intense over just the Armani C original, but I initially really didn't like this whole collection. I had the EDT, and it had an ammonia smell to me, so like it basically smelled like pee. The EDT one that's discontinued, the pink bottle with the pink cap, that one, yeah, I had to get rid of it. But then I think because I didn't like that one, I kind of got turned off from the whole C collection. And then I had smelled the original C, I wore it, and I really liked it. And I ended up picking up the Intense because I knew this was discontinued and I wouldn't be able to find it otherwise. And I like it even more. It's very sexy. It has a nice, like almost jammy black currant thing to it. But it's woody, it's rich. It's got that patchouli, like a nice evening sexy patchouli. It has a darkness to it, like it is, I would say, more of an evening fragrance. It is more mature, more take charge. And the original C is a little bit more playful, a little bit more like flirty, light, but I like them both. I'm glad that I got the C Intense because I flip-flopped a little bit, and then I was like, oh, I think I like the original. But then I wore the Intense a few days in a row, and I love it. Like, I do prefer it over the original because then I went and compared them again. It's a journey. There's a lot of back and forth here, but ultimately, I love the C Intense. I like the C Original, and I still don't like the C Eau de Toilette, which is also discontinued. But I started off like just not liking the whole collection. The one I still don't like is C Passion. That one is just, it's too sweet for me. But yeah, these are all of the fragrances that went from hate to love. So I'm not just a hater. I don't just hate on fragrances. It's not just going from love to hate, and I'm nice sometimes too. These ones went from hate to love. I do give fragrances a chance. I let them grow on me. I let my nose develop, and I try to be fair. Leave me a comment and let me know which fragrance went that way for you. Which fragrance did you start off hating and then you grew to love? Or maybe you didn't like it in the beginning, but you ended up really falling in love with it. Let me know. I'll definitely check it out. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you found it fun. Please make sure to give it a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.